Okay, everybody, it's time for Legal Help Live. Ralph here, Steve there. We're the Legal Help Live team. Call us to ask a legal question and get a legal answer, and the number is 1-800-405-4222. That's the telephone number. It's toll-free. Call, ask that legal question, get a legal answer, and want to...
You know, this is a legal show, and the significance of the number with the 405, that's the broken freeway.
The broken freeway.
Broken freeway in Los Angeles, it never works.
It's not just a freeway. It's the dividing line between the west side of Los Angeles and the entire rest of the world that you can't access.
It's probably the worst example of Caltrans ever built in their entire career.
How unique is it? I agree. How unique is a freeway that not only can you not go on and move once you're on it, you can't even get across it when you're trying to get from one end of town to the other.
And in the meantime, in their infinite wisdom, they're closing it down.
I know.
And blowing things up or whatever they're doing.
Yes.
1-800-405-4222. And we're asking for callers about legal problems. We'll handle your legal problems from immigration, from the DREAM Act. Should the governor sign recent legislation? Should your nanny be getting certain kind of wages? Can she turn you in if she doesn't get rest breaks or 15 minutes? What do we do with fat people in America?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, are fat people discriminated against? We're going to talk about that.
How about this? Should people be allowed to sue a spouse for providing too little sex during a long marriage?
Yes.
Well, wait a second. Let's define our
I'm a defendant!
You want to be a plaintiff or a defendant?
You know.
How about if we take some phone calls?
Wait.
Yes?
We'll have to talk about sex and marriage. Sex and marriage.
How about or?
Go together like
sometimes
a horse and carriage.
Sometimes.
And we're going to talk about the Amish who went to jail because they didn't have a proper sign on the back of their buggy, and some judge sent a bunch of them to jail.
So how about this? In Fullerton, some people were given citations for honking their horns too loud.
Well, in Fullerton, they're all going to jail.
Unfortunately.
Okay, let's go to the phones.
Let's do that. Jorge.
Come on in to Legal Help Live. You're talking to Ralph and Steve, and how can we help you?
Hey, guys. Great show, and I agree the
There was.
405
I'll bet there was.
Jorge!
I got a question for you.
There you go.
I was one of the
Jorge,
.com
you on the
guys.
line?
I had a really successful
Well, I guess
startup
Jorge,
company,
when you
and
can call
I was
back, I
making
guess we
about
cut him out. He was
$1
on
million
a
bucks a year.
405 freeway and moving in a dead spot.
last year,
So
That's a tough
I got
one.
divorced.
let's talk about
Let's do that.
Let's talk about fat people.
You start.
You know, do you think there's a bias, and should people who are overweight, no matter what your weight is, be able to sue because they're discriminated against? For instance, do you think that if two people show up for a job, and one of them is drop-dead gorgeous,
I want that one.
a model, and the other one is a little overweight,
What's the job?
and it's a male employer looking for a female receptionist.
But what's
Who do you think would get the job
as a receptionist?
as a receptionist? Assume they can both speak
Can
equally.
I add just a little bit? The person who's overweight has the most wonderful telephone voice, and the person who's drop-dead gorgeous kind of squeaks along.
Who do you think still would get the job?
I'm going to go with the squeak.
I bet you that's probably right. Is that discrimination?
It may be.
Don't you think that fat people are discriminated against? And
You know-
shouldn't it be cognizable in the law? What about movies or television? How many overweight people that are not doing commercials for the gastric bands, etc., but how many are on television?
Well,
how many are on radio? How many of them?
Well, wait,
They
radio?
might be on radio. How many of them are in the movies?
That's an interesting question because there are parts that call for overweight people.
How many people who go on an airline, try and get on an airline, can't fit in the seat, and they want to charge them for two seats?
I learned something. When you don't have assigned seats and you get on the airplane and it's going to be full, so that all three seats in a 6 across are going to be full, sit and you find people who are against the window, sit next to somebody who's huge, whether they're fat or not, I don't care, but if they're really, really big and they're sitting against the window, you sit in the aisle. No one will sit in the middle seat.
Okay.
That's my empirical study.
In most airlines, the huge person, they will charge them for 2 seats.
That could be.
Isn't that discrimination?
It could be.
What about toilet seats in public restrooms? And if you're big, you can't sit on them. You can't fit in. It used to be phone booths. They're not there anymore.
Yeah, phone booths are gone.
Eliminated
that problem.
What about restaurants, where the booths are made for not people who are copious? Copious? What's the word? What's the
corpulent? No, that's not it either.
No.
Corpulent.
Corpulent.
Corpulent is the thing I want to talk about. From
There's a lawsuit, by the way. An oversized man is suing White Castle over the size of the seats.
Well,
Because a 290-pound man is steaming mad at White Castle's fast food chain, which he claims repeatedly broke promises to make the booths fit in his local eatery. And he's uncomfortable. And therefore he is suing White Castle because it violates the civil rights of fat people.
Interesting. How far along is the lawsuit?
He's trying to get out of the booth to file it. It's been filed. So it's an interesting area. For those of you of any size out there, whether you think fat people are getting discriminated against, or whether or not there's such a concept of fat people, whether we ought to be even referring to them, we're glad to take your questions.
Well, a couple of weeks ago we talked about the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right on.
And ugly people. The 2% of the population who the other 98% think are ugly. They don't get the jobs. They don't marry the right people. Sometimes they don't get into schools. And there's a general discrimination against that as well.
And for those of you out there who are interested in the whole areas of discrimination, there's a website called mybossstinks.com, and on that website is a lot of information about various types of discrimination. It's called mybossstinks.com.
That could be interesting.
Now, I'm hearing Wolf in my ear, and let's try and get Jorge back on. Jorge, how you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, Jorge.
Well,
hey, now this isn't like that movie with Jimmy Stewart with the big rabbit.
Jorge, are you there?
Guys, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
No, I've got a lot of. We're not doing this show.
See, only Jimmy Stewart could see Harvey the rabbit.
See, we got a technical person here today.
Maybe only Wolf
helping
can
us
see
out.
Harvey. I mean Jorge.
Okay. Well, I don't know how many people are calling in because we seem to have a little communication gap. But somebody give us the finger when they decide when we can
1,
talk.
2, 3.
Yeah,
however
we
many
can talk
lines
to
we
people.
got.
So.
Well, in the meantime, this actually happened. This was in southern France. This was just earlier this week. I'll read from the French newspaper translation.
Are you sure Jorge's back?
Wolf says Jorge's back, but I think he's like Jimmy Stewart in the movie. Wolf, are you like Jimmy Stewart in the movie?
Jorge, have you come back?
Can you hear me? I'm here. I hear you.
Oh, you are coming in loud and clear.
We thought you were like Harvey the rabbit, and only Wolf could see and hear you.
All right, well, I'm playing games with you guys. I am here, and I agree with your comment about the 405. That place is terrible. I hate it.
Isn't it horrible?
So, all right, guys. I got a divorce last year in June, and I was making at that time quite a bit of money. I was involved in the .com businesses, and I was making around $1 million a year.
I'll marry you.
Yeah. Hey, get in line.
So here's the problem. So I was making that much money back then, okay?
And now you're calling in for free legal advice.
After things fell apart for me, basically my businesses went down the drain, and I'm down to making almost nothing right now. But I'm stuck with an alimony payment of $60,000 and some change, and I am wondering what in the world I can do to get that thing reduced, because I am not making anywhere near as much as I was making a few months back.
By the way, your marriage proposal is rejected.
Why is that?
So you're paying no child support? There are no children?
No children.
So this charming young lady marries you. How long were you married?
We were married for 9 years.
Okay, so you basically took her glamour and beauty away from her, and then you broke up, and you're paying $60,000 a month or a year?
Correct, a month.
A month? Oh my God. Oh well, there's a thing in the law called change of circumstances, and when there's a change, and in a divorce proceedings, the court retains jurisdiction to modify support decrees. If you don't pay the money, they can issue contempt orders. They can throw you into jail.
Right. There's reference over to the district attorney's office.
They can seize all your assets. They can do all kinds of stuff. But when there's a change of circumstances, did this happen in California?
It did.
You can go.
And my income at the time was varying between. I mean, at the bare minimum, it was $1 million, but it was usually quite a bit above that.
All right. Well,
a few million in a good year.
Okay. Assuming.
So anyway, that's what the alimony was set at.
Assuming you don't have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or $100 million in the bank. If you have a lot of money in the bank in stocks and bonds and investments, etc., and you're getting income off it, or there's a lot of money there, then they could force you to pay support based on the income you're getting from your investments. But if you just were getting a lot of money and you were, and you've lost your Ferrari and your house and your mistress and all the other little toys that you were playing with, and you're left almost penniless, or making very little money, you can go in and make a motion to modify your support based on change of circumstances. Now, then it's it will be discretionary with the court, but they'll look at the they've got all kinds of machinery now that runs all this stuff and basically says what you ought to pay, but you have an opportunity to modify, and you should have been doing that 6 or 7 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Is this something that I need a lawyer to do? I mean, my lawyer was charging me a lot of money. I don't even want to say it. So, do I need a lawyer to get this done?
Well, I would suggest that if you possibly could afford a lawyer, ultimately you're going to save a lot of money if you can. If you can't, you can't. But you've got to get yourself back into court.
Here's your problem. For every month that you don't do something, you will owe her $60,000. So if you goof around for 3 months, that's $180,000. What I want you to do now is take a deep breath and relax a minute. We'll come back to you because we got to go to break now.
Yeah.
This is Legal Help Live, and we're going to go to break to pay a few bills.
Got to do that. Jorge, we'll be talking to you. You called us at 1-800-405-4222. And while we're on break, that's a good time for somebody else to call. And by the way, we didn't say this at the beginning. And Jorge, this is for you and everybody else who calls today. A gift certificate for dinner for 2 for everybody who gets in the program, asks a legal question, gets a legal answer.
Well,
it's our gift to you because summer's like...
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my cell phone in a break, and I'm going to call in because I missed a few meals here and there.
Okay, think of a good question.
Let's go to break.
Okay, we'll be right back.